Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I I want you to tell yourself that you are on a new journey called systems thinking. Don't even don't even try to stress too much about what this means and all that. As we go along, I will explain it to you. Before I decided to include systems thinking into this curriculum, I I deliberated for a long time, and then I spoke to Professor Sivakumar, and both of us decided that we want to include it. There are certain subjects in the world, there are certain topics in the world that have to be learned early. And systems thinking, you will start to understand, is something that has to be learned early. I'm actually a little surprised that systems thinking is not being introduced in our schools and colleges. Because again, you'll have to wait for me to explain systems thinking. I have to set this context so that you don't switch off your video and go away. I would even invite you to, get your family and ask them to watch the videos or watch these lessons, because what you're going to learn is, of course, a new subject, but it's a familiar subject. All of us are systems thinkers in a way. So when Professor Shivakumar and I said that we need to include this, we were absolutely certain that this is going to be useful to all of you. It is not a subject like maths and physics and chemistry and algebra that you can make a career out of, right? But it's a topic that will help you understand the world. Most of the time in our lives, we struggle to understand things around us. We struggle to understand people's behavior. We struggle to understand why things happen. We struggle to understand why things don't happen. We ask ourselves, what is the mistake I have made that this has happened now? So systems thinking is that subtopic which helps you to understand. My interest in systems thinking, I must credit Mr. F.C. Kohli, chairman of TCS, deputy chairman of TCS, who told me, I think it was in 93, he told me, Shiva, you must learn systems thinking. I ignored that advice for a long time. I regret that now, because many things that happened to me between 93 and 2 years ago when I revived my interest in systems thinking. Maybe I could have avoided many of those things. So what you are learning is a topic that will help you understand things around you, understand people. And let me tell you out of experience that most of the time we feel bad or we feel aggrieved or we grieve because we don't understand things. So let me start. Right? I have about three or four videos for you to watch. I want you to take this topic very seriously, please. Very, very seriously. Do not let go of the opportunity of learning something that I missed learning. Right? So let's start. What is a system? What is a system? A system is an interconnected set of elements that is coherently organized in a way that they achieve something. Doesn't make sense to you at all, right? And that's a good thing. It's not as if everything must make sense to us the minute we listen to it. It should not make sense. If it makes sense, then there's something wrong. But look at the words that have been highlighted. A system is an interconnected. So, in your mind, interconnection. Set of elements elements, small elements. Organized, achieve something, which means purpose. So there is interconnection, there is elements, there is organization, and there is a purpose. That is a system. Let's look a little more closely. Look at this. This is something all of you are familiar with from your school days, right? So what is it? It is the human digestive system. Now look at the human digestive system closely. What do you see? You see elements. What are the elements? Mouth, tongue, epiglottis, salivary glands, pharynx, esophagus, liver, gallbladder, large intestine, appendix, rectum, anus, small intestine, pancreas, stomach. So many elements. But all these elements are interconnected. Go back to the definition above. All these elements are interconnected. And they are organized. The mouth and the tongue is inside the mouth, not outside, organized. And it achieves something. The tongue achieves the ability to taste something, send a message to your brain. The tongue achieves to store the food and then actually help you swallow the food, right? The mouth is there so that you can eat, so you can talk. And suddenly you find that this digestive system has elements, interconnections, and it has a purpose. The purpose is to digest food. You have just learned systems thinking. There is nothing more. I can actually stop now and claim that I have taught you systems thinking, because that's all it is. This is what you're going to be learning over and over and over again. You're going to be surprised, right? You're going to be saying, Shiva, how can there be a topic which is finished in one slide? But if you can remember this for the rest of your life, you can go and teach it to someone right away, saying, you know what? Your digestive system, there is an element. Pull your tongue out, element. Mouth, element. Epiglottis, element. Salivary glands, element. Pharynx, element. But all of them are connected to each other. They are all dependent on each other. Interconnections, interdependencies. If you can explain this and say you're learning system thinking, you are right. But that's all it is. That's all it is. Now, having understood this, let's go to the next slide. So this is what it is. A system consists of three things: elements, interconnections, function or purpose. So the human body, I'm just taking you to a next level. The human body has several systems. So a body can have several systems. We have the digestive system, we have the nervous system, the circulatory system, and several other systems, right? And now each system interacts with another system to make the human body alive. And look at the power now. Look at the power of what you're learning. Right? The nervous system, the digestive system, the circulatory system, all of them have small elements. All of them are connected and they form a system. And those systems interact with other systems. And this is just the human body, mind you. We are going to be learning so many systems. Just watch. Just the human body. So, just a quick revision. A system is elements, interconnections, function or purpose. That's a system. The definition of a system. So now, how do you explain a system? You explain a system by saying that a system is different from a heap. A heap, what is the meaning of heap? H-E-A-P, heap. Heap is, I take lot of stones and I put all the stones together. It becomes a heap of stones. If I take out one stone, nothing happens. Out of 100 stones that I have put together, now it's become 99. That's all. Nothing happens to the heap. The heap remains a heap. But on the other hand, a house is a system. It's connected. The elements are connected. It has got a window. It has got doors. It has got walls. It's got roof. It's got a foundation. And if I take out one part of the system, it's no more a house. It just collapses. I can't take out the door. The door is important for the house. It's connected to, is an element, but it's connected to the entire house. I can't take out the windows. I can't take off the foundation. I can't take off the roofs. All of them are elements, but they're all connected to each other. And that's why it becomes a house, which is a system. So the best way to explain to somebody, and I think you should start explaining it to someone in your house or friends or whatever. The best way to explain it to somebody is by this slide. Heap system. What is a heap? A heap is something that does not change or is not affected if I remove a part of the heap, an element from the heap. While a system is affected if one element is removed. Just remember this, okay? I'll come back with a personal example on this. A system is affected if one element is removed, right? So what is systems thinking then? Till now we were defining systems. What is systems thinking? Systems thinking is an approach. Is an approach to understand what we just discussed. Almost similar, but I'm just making a fine distinction. Systems thinking means what you think, how you think, is an approach, is how you approach something, is an approach to understand how elements of a system are connected to each other, how they are connected to each other, how they are connected to each other. What is the dependency? What is the interconnection? How the system relates to larger systems or other systems. So how does the digestive system relate to the circulatory system? How does the circulatory system relate to the nervous system? And there's a relationship. Hunger and nervousness and blood flow are all related, right? And how changes in any one affect the rest. So one small element changes, everything is affected. Just like what happened in the window. Remove the window, the house collapses. Change happens. So look at this system, right? This is the food chain, the jungle food chain system. What is it? You have the hawk connected to the snake connected to the bird connected to the grasshopper connected to grass, the grass connected to the mouse is connected to the owl and the hawk. The mouse is also connected to the fox. The rabbit is connected to the hawk. The rabbit is connected to the fox. And this is a system. Brilliant, right? Just brilliant. And look at this system. All of them are elements. The snake is an element. The hawk is an element. The bird is an element. Now, supposing you remove one. You just remove one. Take out the snake. Kill all the snakes. You say, oh, snakes are bad. Kill all the snakes. What happens? The whole system collapses. Why? Because the birds depend on the snakes and the birds will die. The snakes depend on the eat the rats. If there are no snakes, there will be lots and lots of rats. And too many rats will kill the grass, will kill everything else. And therefore, you will find that removing one element will affect the entire system. And that's what is happening in our lives today. Go back to why we have a climate problem. Because we have removed elements needlessly, mindlessly. But if you are a systems thinker, before you do something, you'll ask yourself, what will happen if I remove it? And that question nobody asks. Nobody asks that question, what will happen if I do something to the system? It's so simple, right? When you go to the doctor, you don't say, you don't just treat your tongue for something, right? You treat the entire system. So systems thinking is a holistic approach. Holistic, remember? Holistic approach to understand how elements of a system are connected to each other, how the system relates to larger systems, and how changes in one affect the rest. So, what have we learned? We have learned what is a system. A system has elements, interconnections, and a purpose. Systems thinking teaches us how the elements are connected to each other, how they are connected, and how does one system relate to other systems, and what happens if something changes in the system. And then we also learned heap and house. A heap is not a system, a house is a system. In the house, when an element is removed, the whole house collapses. The heap does not collapse. So, what can we use systems thinking for? We can use it for examining problems, looking at problems. For instance, if something is happening in our family, if something is happening in the campus, if something is happening in our own lives, we can look at the problem from a systemic point of view. You can see what is happening. What are the elements that are interacting with each other? What are the elements of my family? Understand, like I said, no, this is for me the key word, understand situations. Naturally, if you understand something, you can also diagnose. When you go to the doctor, what does he do? He doesn't just examine your tongue and go away, right? Whenever you go to the doctor, especially when you go to any hospital, any doctor, what does he do? He checks your blood pressure. He checks your weight. He asks you a lot of questions about hunger. He asks you what is your daily routine. He asks you about your exercise, because everything is connected. Even if you go for a simple headache, he still asks you all these questions. So therefore, what is he trying to do? He's trying to find out if something is wrong with one of the elements, yes. But he's also asking which element is affecting what. Because I don't walk, my sugar is increasing. Because my sugar is increasing, my blood pressure increases. Because my blood pressure increases, my heart rate increases. Because my heart rate increases, my anxiety increases. And because my anxiety increases, my blood pressure increases more. So what does he do? He says, go and get your blood tested. Then after I come back, he says, no, your blood sugar is very high. Reduce it. What's the connection between reducing diet and blood pressure? There's a big connection, right? So I reduce my diet. I eat less sugar. My sugar drops down. My sugar drops down. My blood pressure drops down. My blood pressure drops down. My heart rate drops down. Look at this beauty, okay? This is just so beautiful. Tell me, why would you not learn this topic? Why? Have you started to understand your own body now? Have you started to understand the different connections? It's so wonderful, right? Can we ever look at our body as one single system? We can't, right? We have to say everything is connected. And we are an example of a walking system. And see what's going to happen now. This is that famous story, right? Famous story. I'm sure many of you have heard it. It's called the six blind men. What happens? There is an elephant. And these 6 men are blindfolded. And they are taken near the elephant and they touch the elephant. So one person touches the elephant, he is blindfolded. Imagine yourself blindfolded touching the tail of the elephant. And he says, this is a snake. Naturally, because the tail looks like the snake. One more person touches the body of the elephant and says, this is a wall. The third person is climbing on a ladder and touches the ear of the elephant and says, it's a fan. It's a huge ear, right? The fourth person touches the leg of the elephant and says, this is a pillar or a tree. One more person touches the trunk of the elephant and says it's a snake. And the other person thinks there's a spear. So each of these people, when they are blindfolded, the tusks of the elephant, he says it's a spear. So each of these people, when they touch the elephant blindfolded, they see different parts of the system, different parts. The tail, they don't even know it's a tail. They think it's a snake. And then you remove the blindfold, what do they see? They see a elephant. So what are we learning? We are learning the entire elephant is not equal to the sum of the parts. Just the parts alone will not make up the elephant. It has to be put together as one elephant, as a whole elephant. Most of the time, this is what we do in our lives, right? We only see one small part of something and we start jumping up and down. We never see how that part is connected to something else and connected to something else. This example is about letting you see the connections and the importance of connections before you come to a conclusion. Because the six blind men is an example of helping you see how a system called the elephant the elements are connected to each other, and the whole is not equal to the sum of the parts. Just think about this example. Think about how many times in your life you have been blindfolded and you have recognized something as something else when it's actually part of a different system. So many things in our life, right? We'll keep looking at that. So what have we learned? Elements. I'm sorry I'm doing this because it's a new subject. It's important for us, right? I want all of you to become systems thinkers. And I tell you what, you will be one of those few people in the world who are systems thinkers, who differentiate themselves because of your thinking.